Well, welcome to day 2 of the 1-1 linear equations. So as always, I would start with what you need to know first before we move on to further into the lesson. So last time, as a review, we talked about multi-step equations with distributive property and combining like terms. And I'm going to write some problems down. Like for example, I'm going to put multi-step equation. So this is something that we have learned last time, and I'll give an example just in case if you forgot. Let's say if you have something like 9 multiply the quantity of x minus 7 and then plus 5 is equal to 5 like this. Okay, so if you have this equation, there's a couple ways to do it. You could either subtract 5 on both sides, just because you want to get rid of as many things as possible around the variables. Or if you want, you could distribute first. I usually personally like to distribute, but you could do it your own way. So you're going to have 9x minus, so 9 times x is 9x, and 9 times negative 7, just in case if we forgot, we're going to use a calculator. So you open your decimals calculator and you just press 9 times negative 7 and you get, oh, I'm not supposed to put the equal sign, but I get negative 63. So right here, right, I'm going to zoom in, negative 63. So you're going to put minus 63 plus 5 is equal to 5. And then from here, I notice that there are 3 terms on the left side of the equation, so we're going to combine them. So negative 63 plus 5. Again, if we want to make sure that we get it correct, then we're just going to press, let's see, negative 63 plus 5, which is negative 58. So on my calculator, it says negative 58. So we'll put 9x minus 58 is equal to 5 like this. Okay, now it gets down to 2-step equation because there are 2 more steps you have to do. So I'm going to plus 58 on both sides, plus 58 plus 58 like this, and negative 50 and 58 cancel. You're left with 9x is equal to 5 plus 58, which is 63. Okay, and then at the end, since you have 9 multiplied by number 63, you're going to divide both sides by 9. So we're going to put divided by 9 and divided by 9. Okay, so 9x divided by 9, the 9 and 9 cancel. You just left with x by itself, and then 63 divided by 9 is 7. Okay, now if you want to make sure that our math is done correctly, on 63 divided by 9, just put 63 and then divide it by 9, and it just pops up as 7 on your calculator or your decimals app. Okay, so that's how I get is x equals 7. Well, how do you check that your answer is correct? Right, we're going to put check. Right, remember the equation 9 multiplied by x minus 7 plus 5 is equal to 5, right? If you want to check that your answer is correct, simply replace your answer into the variable. So you're going to rewrite it 9 and then replace the x with 7, and then after that rewrite everything else the same like this. And then you're going to use order of operations to simplify the left side of the equation to see if it matches the right side of the equation. So let's use PEMDAS. So we're gonna subtract inside the parentheses. So you're left with 9, and then 7 minus 7 is 0. 9 times 0 plus 5 is equal to 5. Then between multiplying and adding, I'm gonna do multiplication first. So you do 9 times 0, which is 0 plus 5 is equal to 5. Well, 0 plus 5, it is 5. So you notice that these two sides of the equations are the same. So therefore, you know that your answer, x equals 7, is the correct answer for this problem of equations. Okay? So that was a review. That's something that you need to know. What I did is I distribute here. So this process is distribute. And then here I combine like terms. So you need to know these 2 things before moving on further into the lesson. Okay? So now we're going into the day 2 of the same lesson, right? 1-1 linear equations. And this time you're going to introduce fractions and decimals. And I'll teach you strategies on how to simplify fractions and decimals. Our goal is not to work with it. Our goal is try to get rid of it as much as possible. So let me give you, let's do fractions first. We're going to get the hardest part out of the way first. So we're going to put fractions. So fractions. Example 1 says 5/2y, or 5/2 y, minus 12 is equal to -7. Okay. Well, to do this, there's 2 ways to do it. You could keep the fractions, or you do not have to keep the fractions. Our goal is to get rid of the fractions as much as possible, right? Get rid of it as soon as possible, actually. So what you do is, since there's only a denominator of 2, I'm going to multiply everything, every terms that I see in the equation by the number 2. So I'm going to put 2 multiplied by 2 on the left side of the equation, and I'm going to multiply 2 on the right side of the equation, right? Because the 2 is the only, let me move this on the side, 2 is the only denominator. Okay, 2 is the only denominator. Now if you want to find out, well, what's 2 multiplied by this thingy right here, you're going to distribute. So once you multiply both sides by the number on the denominator, you're going to distribute. So what's 2 multiplied by 5/2? So we're going to use our calculator. We're going to first clear it. Oh, I did upside down. So I'm going to clear that. I'm going to put 2 multiplied by 5/2 like this. You see how I type it in the calculator. So 2 multiplied by 5/2 is 5. That means this equals to 5. And don't forget the variable. So you're going to put 5y. And then 2 multiplied by -12. So double the 12. So 2 times 12 would be -24. So 5y minus 24 is equal to -14, because -7 times 2 is -14. You notice that once I multiply both sides of the equations by the denominator, all the fractions are gone on the next step. You should have no more fractions. And then from there, it's easy. You just do what you just did from the previous lesson. You add 24 on both sides, right? And then you get 5y is equal to -14 plus 24 is 10. And then after that, you divide both sides by 5, and you get y equals 2. Okay, that means your final answer is y equals 2. Now, you could plug it back into the variable to check to see if it's correct, but it would be a little bit of work to simplify, because now you're going to work with fractions. So that's the good thing about online homework. It'll check everything right away for you without you try to check to see if your answer is correct. That's the best thing about online homework. Okay. Now, what happens when you have more than 1 fractions in a certain problem? Because this problem only has 1 fraction. Well, let's go to the next example. Example 2. Let's say if you have 3/4k, right? I don't have to use y or x all the time. I could use k. 3/4k minus 1/2 is equal to 7. Well, in this problem, you have 2 fractions with 2 different denominators. What do you do? So what you do is you're going to find something called least common denominator. Okay, least common denominator. So what you do is between 4 and 2, right? The least common denominator or least common multiple would be 4. Now, how do I find that, right? Because back in the days in elementary school, you first list these 2 numbers, right? And then you list their multiples. So I noticed that 2 would be 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, so on and so forth, right? And then 4 would be 4, 8, 12, 16, so on and so forth. And then whichever number that comes up first in both lists, that's your least common denominator, or in this case, least common multiple. So what I'm going to do is I will multiply both sides of the equation by 4, just like what I did in example 1. So I'm going to multiply by 4 and multiply by 4 like this, okay? Now remember, you have to distribute on the left side of the equation. And here's the bad part, you have to multiply fractions. But the good part is you can use a calculator to confirm that. So 4 multiplied by 3/4. 4 multiplied by 3/4. So on your calculator, you're going to type 4 multiplied by 3/4, which is same as just 3. So I'm going to put 3 there, 3k minus, now 4 times half of 4, right? So you're going to do it in your head. What's half of 4? So you cut it in half and you get -2. So 3k minus 2 is equal to 7 times 4 is 28. Have you noticed that all the fractions are gone on the next step, right? This is the good thing about multiplying the first step by the least common denominator. If you see fractions, you want to get rid of fractions right away, immediately. Do not work with fractions if I were you. So you're going to left with nice numbers on your next step. Well, from here it's easy now. So now you're going to add 2 on both sides. And then you get 3k equals 30. And then at the end, you divide both sides by 3. And then you get k equals 10. And then that's your final answer, k equals 10. Okay? So let's do one more example involving fractions, okay? So example 3, something like x over 7 plus x over 4 is equal to 9 over 7. You notice that this time we have 3 fractions, x over 7, x over 4, and 9 over 7. Well, you first, same thing, same process, you're going to find least common denominator. Okay, denominator. And how would you do it? You're going to, well, first list all the multiples of 7 and all the multiples of 4, right? So you're going to do 7, 14, 21, 28, so on and so forth. And then for 4 is 4x, 16, nope, 12, 16, 20, 24, 28. And if you notice, the first number appeared is 28. That means you're going to multiply the entire equation by 28. So multiply 28 and multiply by 28. And don't be afraid on the fractions because you can use your calculator to simplify for you. So this is 28 times 1 over 7. Let's do that. So on our calculator, you're going to do 28 times 1 over 7. Can you see that? Oh, right here. So 28 times 1 over 7 is 4. So I'm going to put 4x. Okay, so here I put 4x. And then the next step is 28 times 1 over 4. So on my calculator, I'm going to put 28 times 1 over 4 like this, and it'll give me 7. That means I'm going to put 7x here. And then I have to find out what's 9 over 7 times 28. So on my calculator, for the third time, I'm going to put 9 over 7 times 28. Whoops, not like this, because I have to click and then times 28 like this. So 9 over 7 times 28 is 36. So I'm going to put 36 like this. And then after that, you're just going to combine like terms, right? Actually, I'll work out all the way for this one with you because I think at the end we're going to get fractions, okay? So for this one, you're going to combine like terms. 4x plus 7x is 11x is equal to 36. And when you divide both sides by 11, you notice that 36 cannot divide by 11, or the 11 cannot go into 36 evenly. So you're just going to write it as an improper fraction, and then that's it, right? Now, if you don't believe me, you could always check on your calculator that what is 36 divided by 11. So I'm going to just put 36 divided by 11. Well, you're going to get an ugly decimals, but we don't like decimal in this class, so we're going to just put this little icon right here, the fraction button. It says 36 divided by 11. It's just 36 over 11, and then that's it, okay? So that was for equations involving fractions. Next, we're going to go over equations involving decimals, right? So same thing. If you see decimals in the equations, our goal is to get rid of it as fast as possible. So let's do example 4 because we're on the fourth problem. Let's say you have something like 9 minus 0.6x is equal to 9, like this, okay? Well, first, I would like to get rid of the decimals in the equation because that kind of scares me a little bit. So what I'm going to do is, if there's a 1 decimal place after the decimal point, if there's 1 digit after the decimal point, you're going to shift the decimal point once to the right, and you're going to do the same thing for every single term that you see in the equation. So there are 3 terms, you're going to do the same thing for 3 terms. If there are 4 terms, you're going to do the same thing for 4 terms, okay? Then from there, so once you move 9 decimals place to your right once, that becomes 90. And then 0.6, once you move it once to the right, it becomes 6x. And then this 9 again becomes 90. So boom, now all the decimals are gone, right? Isn't that great? Then from there, you can just keep solving the equation like you did last week or last lesson. You subtract both sides by 90. You cross out this, so you get negative 6x is equal to 0, right? And then from there, you divide both sides by negative 6 and negative 6, right? So once you cross out the negative 6 and negative 6, x is equal to 0 divided by negative 6 is 0, okay? And then that's your final answer. Now, check is very easy, right? If you think the answer is 0, go and plug it back in. 0.6 times 0, 0. So that means this thing is gone and you're left with 9 equals 9. So that's the fastest way to check whether your answer is correct or not. Let's do one more example. What happens if you have more than one decimal? So let's take a look at this one. 2.4, I'm going to put that decimal place here. 2.4 plus 10m is equal to 7.16. Okay, let me actually make all these decimal larger, right? So you have this equation with two decimals, right? So what you're going to do is you're going to pick a decimal with the most digits after the decimal place. I see that 7.16 has 2 digits after the decimal place. What you do is this time, instead of moving ones to the right, you're going to move 2 times to the right. So you're going to shift the decimal place 2 times to the right. You're going to do the same thing, 2 times to the right, and then 2 times to the right for every single turn. So the 2.4, once you move 2 times to the right, it becomes 240. And then 10, once you move 2 times to the right on the decimal place, it becomes 1000m. And then 7.16, once you move 2 times to the right, it becomes 716. Look at that. All the decimals are gone. And then from there, you just solve it like normal. You're going to subtract 240 on both sides. Okay, you cross it out. So you get 1000m is equal to, what's 716 minus 240? I need to use my calculator. So 716 minus 240, and I get 476. So I'm going to put 476 right here. And then at the end, I'm going to divide both sides by 1,000. Divide both sides by 1,000. Okay. I think on the homework, if they give you a equation with decimals, I want you to leave your answer in decimals. If they give you an equation involving fractions, then you're going to leave your answer in terms of fractions. So just like this one, right, previously, if it's fractions, you're going to leave your answer as fractions. If the equation is decimals, you're going to leave your answer as decimals. So 476 divided by 1,000, it's going to be, I need to use a calculator, and this time you're going to leave it as a decimal. So 476 divided by 1,000, and my final answer is 0.476. See if you see that, 0.476. So my final answer is 0.476, and then that's it. So this is how you solve equations involving fractions and decimals. Again, the strategy is to get rid of fractions and decimals as soon as possible. Do not work with them. I would not recommend that. And then from there, it will be an easier life for you. Okay? Thank you.
Hey everyone, so to get to your homework, first you go to my CNUSD website and then you click on the top of the page, my CNUSD, to log in. Well, you're going to type in your username and your password. Well, in this case, your student ID and your password. Then you go on to resource. I think for you guys it's resource. And then you go to a place called Pearson Savas Easy. Pearson Savas Easy. I'm not quite sure how you say that word, but it's Pearson Easy. Click on that. And you get to this pop-up page. And you're going to click on your class textbook. So you click on this right here. This is called Envision Integrated Mathematics 1 2009 Common Core. You click on that, a new window pop up again, and you see 3 different colors. The green color is your online textbooks. I teach from this textbooks, so if you don't have a copy, an actual copy, you could always go to here and click on the appropriate sections that we're teaching. But to find your online homework, you look at the reddish, orangish box in between, in the middle. It's called classes. So you're gonna click on here, click on classes, and depending on which period you're in, there will be new assignments here. So you're going to click on the click into the assignments, and then do your homework, and then that's it. Well, inside the homework, there are problems for you to work on, which allow you 3 attempts before they give you the final answer. So for example, for this problem, if you accidentally got a wrong answer, it'll tell you keep trying. Then you type in another answer, and if it's wrong, then it'll give you one more chance. And the third time that you got it wrong, it'll tell you the answer right away. So, but you could always get help by viewing an example on this part of the feature. So it'll tell you what to do step by step until the final answer. So you could always refer to the question, help view an example, or you could use help me to solve this to actually work it step by step. So there will be more answer boxes for you to fill in, but at least it will help you on your learning. Now for this problem, what do you do when you get it wrong, right? So to get a point or to get scores on that homework, then you click on similar questions and you keep practicing until you get it right. So if I were to click on similar questions, you notice that the questions changed. It's different from the previous one. So let's say this time you got it right. Let's say x is equal to 5, right? Well, if you got it right, it will tell you well done, okay, and then you move on to the next problem. So you click on next to move on to the next problem, like this. And once you finish all the problem, I believe the next thing is for you to make sure that you answer all the questions. If there's anything that is not answered, make sure that you go back and look at it like this, right? So this is not answered. But let's say assume that if you finish your all of the questions on your homework, then you go to the bottom, I believe. Oh, actually, this button right here says submit my work. So you click on it, and then boom, I only got 3% just because I only answered one question correct, the rest I did not answer. So in order for you to get at least 80% or any good scores, make sure that you answer every single question and it's correct, not incorrect, for you to get as many points as possible on your homework. If you have any questions, please contact me.